Sorry, a lot of them been simple.
Okay. All right. Well, introduce intro. My name is Frankie B. Washington, and I'm the co-creator and artist of Robot God Akamatsu. And this is James Biggie, other co-creator and writer, and also does he did the covers as well, graphic artist for Robot God Akamatsu. And Robot God Akamatsu was a concept that we came up with back in 2009. Actually, May 2009.
Yeah, May, exactly.
We both were working in the ad agency or the ad industry. And James, off and on, I worked freelance, and James actually worked at this particular agency. We would cross paths. And I remember we would go to, I'd walk by James' cubicle, and I noticed that James had Transformers. And so, I'll just go, okay, Transformers or whatever. And I always loved the old school robots, the super robots, the stuff that people climb in their head to pilot and stuff like that, and make them do fun stuff and fight. So anyway, I don't know what happened. It was like you came over to the studio section.
Yeah, no, I remember you were actually working on, so it was right before the first Michael Bay Transformers film came out.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you guys, I remember, were working on something for the website.
Yeah, it was a website.
Yeah,
and I was
you
working
had
on
some of the pre-production art. And
yes.
I was like, oh,
yeah.
Let me just take a peek at this.
Yeah, I was drawing a lot of the Transformers for this web concept. And so I was doing a lot of the web designs, and it was awesome because I got a chance to really work on, actually look at the Transformers before they even hit the theaters.
Yeah.
So I got to see Bumblebee and all those characters. But then you brought me a script.
Well, I remember at one point we were talking about, because we were talking specifically about the Michael Bay Transformers, and I remember that you were going, these are just too complicated. You had a hard time figuring out which character was which character and whatnot. And that led into a larger discussion about the classic Transformers Generation 1, and also for Shogun Warriors, which was our major influence on the RGA.
Yep.
So, and then we just kind of were talking back and forth, what would we do if we were going to do it? And then I think you originally said, why don't we do something like a Justice League with super robots?
But I think before you had brought me a script that you wrote for Batman.
Oh, that's right.
That's it. See, there you go. There you go.
Start at the top.
Old age.
Yeah.
Because you brought me a script. Because you said, Frank, would you mind reading this script? And I said, all right, cool. And I read it. And I said, I said, it's pretty good. I said, it was engaging. I could visually see a lot of stuff going on. But then I just didn't understand why was he writing Batman.
Yeah.
Because I was like, James, you love robots. I said, so why don't you write a script about robots? And then that's when we started talking about, we started getting into the Justice League, and I said, what about a world of super robots? and in this world, there's other robots, but they're ordinary robots. But then how would the super robots be different than the ordinary robots? And we started going back and forth. And then I don't know what was the turning point. The turning point was, did you come up with the name Robot God Akamatsu the first?
Well, we were talking about I think it was you, me, and Roger, we were talking about our favorite of the most recent Godzilla films.
Sure.
The Lenny ones. And for me, it was always the two with Mechagodzilla from 2002.
Right.
And so I like the name of the robotics director and the first one who helped design Mechagodzilla. His last name was Akamatsu.
All right.
So, and then just kind of following, the Robot God part came a lot from the Shinto idea. There's a spirit and everything.
Sure.
And a lot of the toy lines, there are a lot of toy lines in Japan that, they're like robot spirits and stuff like that. So that's where I think that's pretty much.
Well, the name was what sparked me. Because immediately when he came up with that name, I was like, all right, dude, I gotta start drawing. And in my initial drawings, they were like, I began thinking of a combiner. What we call the combiner robot, which is one robot that's made of different pieces, broken down pieces. And I was like, this has to be a combiner, but I wanted it to be very organic. So I started thinking of like a bird. I took a bird, sea serpent, and a land vehicle or something. And then I said, let's work from there. And I started working up these sketches for this possible character. And we just began going back and forth with it and said, let's go ahead and see what we can come up with.
But I think I did that first little paragraph treatment saying, what if we tried something like this? And I think I touched on a little bit about Atlantis, which you can kind of see.
Oh, there you go.
So you can actually read the first couple of chapters for free online on this comic hosting called Issue. And So we have Atlantis here.
But yeah, you had that concept of Atlantis and this whole like idea that because again in the myth of Atlantis was this supposed society that was highly civilized, and I mean they had technology and they're highly advanced and stuff. And so you sort of tweaked on that story and added the sense of extra-dimensional creatures and tying that in there, and that they end up creating, or not even creating, but having the Robot God Akamatsu as their sort of protector of Atlantis. And then from there, it was just like, we just started sort of pulling everything together and forging a story which literally took us 3 years to do. Because the graphic novel, it's like, I love when people talk about they want to create something. They go, I want to create a comic book, and I have such and such. And it's like, I tell them, I say, think of it in terms of a movie and how it's a process and that it takes time, and we were working, I'm a working artist, he's a working artist. And so during that time, we did, in that 3 years, we came up with like 6 books that were able to be put together in that one graphic novel. But it was a good journey. It was an amazing journey because we learned so much about each other, but then also learning a little bit about the field of trying to get a graphic novel out and stuff.
Yeah, we had a couple of ups and downs.
We had always bumps in the road.
Yeah, we had one, what was the name of that company? Isaki.
Yes,
Comics,
yes.
Who they said, we love that, we pitched to them and they're like, we love it, we'd like to, run with it. And they had a list of other artists that they were looking to publish their work too. And then all of a sudden they just sort of like disappeared.
Yeah.
They ghosted on us.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. So we just kind of went back to square one. We're like, look, I think we had what would be 3 individual issues and kind of in the can at that point. So like, why don't we start releasing them online?
Well, we also did stuff too where we took a lot of our background in advertising. And used guerrilla marketing. Guerrilla marketing means literally poor marketing. Like you don't have the funds to do major marketing, so you try to use tactics.
Facebook is free.
And there you go, Facebook is free. You start using using certain little techniques, like we started talking in a vein of like Robot God Akamatsu as a homage to Shogun Warriors, keywords, transformers, things that people can lock their brains around, and somehow you begin to set up a narrative that what you're reading right there is something that you've experienced before when you were a child. And we started just using some of those techniques that we picked up from advertising. And it really helped us because we were already selling the concept way before anyone saw the book. They were getting excited. People were getting jazzed. They were like, oh my God, you got, especially we was like, yeah, it's in Boston, and everything's been in New York and Japan, and Boston by the sea, and the super robot's gonna come out, he's gonna fight this big creature and stuff, and near Prudential and stuff like that. So we were trying to set up a narrative that was really effective in making it sell for Robot God Akamatsu, as well as eventually leading to us getting picked up by a publisher in Canada called Zetabella Publishing. They were really impressed by the fact of how we were able to sell the idea, especially even before Godzilla and stuff was coming out, because at that time Godzilla was just a murmur.
That's right. They hadn't even released the preview.
Cloverfield came out.
Cloverfield had come out
which
first.
we were excited about because we were like, yes, the genre, and then it just sort of whatever. People were like, all right, and then Transformers came out, which was a great boon to the genre and stuff, and the Pacific Rim and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like Pacific Rim, so our volume 1 came out in June of 2013, and Pacific Rim came out in July. So I kind of felt like it just happened to be around the same time, and then I had gone up to every year. I only really kind of do one convention a year now, and it's in Chicago. It's called G-Fest, and it's all Godzilla and Kaiju, super robot related. So I was there too, and I had copies of the book. So that helped kind of, get us. We did pretty well. Well, we did a few. Remember when we did? I was telling some people about the story of when we were invited by PhillyCon, which was definitely Wizard World. We went to Philly, and that was a learning lesson. We wasted a lot of money. We discovered that that our audience wasn't there, and that's a key thing. I think that people have to understand that. This is a business, and yes, it's like we're doing artwork and we're having fun doing artwork, but in the end, it's a business. And so you want to still have fun with that business, but you got to understand where you're going to market, or who's going to be your fan base.
And so after that experience, it changed my mindset. Where I said, you know what? We don't need to be at every convention. We just need to be at the conventions where people understand this and can lock onto this. Now, the look that we went for Robot God Akamatsu was black and white, and we wanted to get that sort of homage to the Japanese manga feel. Manga is a, Japanese comic book, but done a lot in black and white. They use a lot of old school techniques and stuff like that, zipper tone, the classic stuff. Yeah, so we wanted to try to capture that feel, which we thought we was really effective with. I mean, a lot of people didn't have complaints with it. They were kind of, happy that it was in sort of like that nice black and gray look.
Well, the black and white look helped too, also because it was just you and I at this point. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I had lettered the first couple of chapters here.
One of the things that during the time when I was working on that, I wanted to experiment with different techniques because I'm one of the kind of artists where I'm just like, I just, I'm trying to test myself. So certain pages were done just pencil. And then I fused a little bit with, pen and ink and stuff. So some of these were, like this whole page right there was done in pencil, but then stuff like this was like in black, done in ink and stuff like that. But it was something I wanted to try. I was trying to emulate a certain technique that a lot of the early animations in the 70s and 80s, they would do these wonderful scenes where there would be like a catastrophe, and then it would be like an actual painting.
Yeah. Like I always think of that opening scene in Akira.
Yes.
That long shot where they kind of pull out of Neo Tokyo and you see the nuclear bomb.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's just one long painting.
Exactly.
That just panned up on.
And so it's something that it was fun. It was fun doing and stuff, and I learned a lot from it. So.
Just look at the level of detail.
Yeah, we had little people like there. And that's when I think that scene right there, that's when they were actually.
That's when they first dredge up RGA.
RGA, and then this big thing right here is an actual gigantic ship.
Yeah.
That says Biggie. It's pretty much his name. The one thing about it, we had fun because we tend to put a lot of people that we knew inside the book and stuff. So.
I made Frankie the villain.
Am I really a villain? Yeah,
no,
you fell in love with this scene.
Yeah.
When you first saw this, you loved it. So that was pretty much me.
Yeah.
When I had my afro. But
And aged about 30 years.
Yeah, aged in 30 years. But and then these characters, some of these early characters right here were actually from
Shogun Warriors.
the Shogun Warriors.
Yeah.
We love the Shogun Warrior comic book, so we said, no, you know what? We'll take some liberty and throw some of those characters in there.
This panel here, I tried to throw Frankie a curveball. So these scientists, they work for this large scientific base called Sanctuary Base, and I tried to throw Frankie a curveball. I'm like, why don't you put the Night Watch painting behind the main desk? And I thought that, all right, maybe he'll just grab a screen grab and whatnot. But no, he recreated it.
Yeah. And you did that for another page too. I forgot. That's down the line.
Oh yeah,
the death scene or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
God, the Titan, was it Titan? His children or something?
It was.
No, that's James' work. Actually, James is. I told James is the. What did I call you? The propaganda artist?
My big influences are Saul Bass, Paul Rand.
Yep.
Not Rand Paul, not the politician. I like that minimalist kind of style of art, and I think there's always something kind of cool. Like people always go, oh, it's kind of easy to do, but sometimes it's not. And when you have to take a character like Optimus Prime and try to represent him in just a few shapes, and still have people go, oh, that's Optimus Prime. Let's see if I can get it to you.
And I think one of the things about it is just like, I haven't really looked at the pages. It's been a few years now. And it's kind of interesting just looking at them now on a big screen. But it's such a labor of love. I mean, I just remember the hours just working and drawing, and James would, send off sketches to him and stuff like that, and we're both getting pretty crazy with ideas and things like that.
Well, it was that, and we also tried to put as much, as many little references as we could.
Yeah.
Not just for, fans of giant robots and whatnot, but also for us. We have some like jazz references and.
Oh, there you go. See, and this is another thing too. We had various people who wanted to do the character, that's how the fan base, where people would draw different covers for us for these online ones. Like this was a computer generated cover that some guy loved the character that much. He did a computer generated version, and then this is another version right here by another artist, and this one,
That's
a
one
beautiful
of
one.
my favorites. And then,
This is another great one. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, this was another way to kind of get people involved too.
Yeah, when we first started, yeah.
When we first started, like, hey, you know something, we're going to be releasing these in little chapters.
That's great. I'll try that one.
This
And
is
of
from-
course, and that's the shirt that I'm wearing right now.
Yeah, this was kind of, so Frankie had drawn the robot here, and I kind of laid him out into the old Shogun Warrior toy style packaging.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the narrative. I mean, you know, people tend to lock in on the things that they remember the most. And it's just like Star Wars. Like if I was doing something that dealt with space and space opera, I would somehow try to work Star Wars in there or something, Star Trek, or something that people can lock their minds on to that memory. And you hope that what you create is good enough so that they can stay with it. Oh, there you go.
So here's another example of, you know.
And I looked, and at the time, when I look at it now, there was a lot of, I was in this whole frame of mind of doing tons of panels. I think I did 12 panels on one page at one point, which was insane. But, you know, but again, I've learned a lot more, but I'm a huge fan of just action. That's the thing that I sort of think, and I think that comes from my storyboard background when you're dealing with film and stuff like that, making sure that, you know, I remember a director once told me, he said, hey, he said, think of your work, whereas would you sit in the theater and watch your work? Mm-hmm. And when I look at scenes like this, you know, like I wanted to get a scene where the monster got shot in the face, and then all of a sudden, as he's like, he's turning around, this vehicle's turning, angling itself to shoot him one final shot and then complete it, and then leave, and then the people were able to run out to the vehicle, and then one of the heroes